a listener production.
Hey, it's Antoinette Lattouf. This is the weekend briefing where I hit pause on the headlines and chat with someone pretty extraordinary about what drives them. And today, that someone is Dr. Richard Harris. He's best known as one of the incredible people behind the 2018 rescue of the Thai soccer team that was trapped in a flooded cave. It was a feat that stunned the world and it earned him the title of Australian of the Year back in 2019. So Harry, as he likes to be called, is an introvert and he never set out to be a doctor. Yet he became one of the world's rare finds, an anaesthetist who loves deep diving and, as it turns out, is then called on to save lives underwater. So he retired from medicine a couple of years ago to focus on writing and filmmaking and speaking, and his latest project takes him back into dangerous waters. His new film, Deeper, explores what he says is his most perilous dive yet. It blends courage, curiosity, and the question of what bravery looks like when the world feels so short on it at the moment. And yes, while the globe watched on in awe as children were rescued from a cave, we now watch children killed daily in Gaza, a contrast that also isn't lost on him. And later in the show, Chris and Helen will take you through the weekend list, and it will be your dose of hot tips for what to watch, read and listen to. But first, here's Dr. Richard Harris. Dr. Richard Harris, aka Harry, welcome to the weekend briefing.
Hi, Antoinette. Thanks for having me.
I'm really looking forward to our chat today. There's so much that the Australian public knows about you, namely about your role in the Thai cave rescue. But I want to take a little bit of time to wind back and get to know a young Harry. When was it that you decided you wanted to get into medicine?
Oh, medicine. Well, that was a bit of a late choice, last-minute thing in Year 12, actually. My goals were to consider marine biology or veterinary science, and medicine was pretty much a third choice. But a friend who was studying marine biology at the time actually told me not to apply because no one could get a job at that period. And so I put my sights on veterinary science, and I missed out by 2 marks to get into veterinary science. So ended up being a doctor instead. But as it turns out, it has suited me very well. And
clearly you're drawn to underwater, wanting to have studied marine science first. So is that something that's been a passion of yours since childhood?
Yeah, as long as I can remember. I was heavily influenced by a family friend called Pat Harbison, who was a marine biologist, and she was always present on these summer holidays over to the west coast of South Australia, where we went pretty much every year since I was about 10 years old, and I used to always enjoy snorkeling and doing a bit of spearfishing and so forth, and she kind of nurtured that interest and used to give me a book here and there and talk to me about the fish that I was catching. And it was almost a bit of a light bulb moment when I just realised that instead of just swimming around and, shooting things, and that there were so many other ways to appreciate and love the ocean. So it just has been an obsession since I can really ever remember.
So not only did you study medicine, you went on with a specialty as an anaesthetist, probably the specialty that most people pronounce incorrectly from what I've seen. I hope I did an okay job.
You were close. That wasn't bad.
I was close. Very good. Is there a correlation between essentially being able to control people's breathing and consciousness and your love of diving, which in many ways is that equilibrium between life and death in many cases?
I think there's a strong overlap actually between anaesthesia and particularly cave or technical diving, where you're going further and deeper and longer than, normal recreational diving. I mean, one of the obvious comparisons is that anaesthesia is 99% boredom and 1% terror is the cliche because everything is usually very safe and goes very smoothly. But just very occasionally things go badly for the patient, and that's when you earn your money, I guess. That's when your training all kicks in and you have to help save a patient's life. In cave diving, it can be quite similar. For the most part, it's a very safe sport. It's we're very careful, lots of pre-planning, highly trained, very careful selection of equipment and so forth. But occasionally, you make an error of judgment, or you make a mistake and you get a bit stuck, or you're getting low on air before you've found the exit, and you can have a real fright. So I have enjoyed the challenge of making something where the hazards are obvious. I've enjoyed making that into something that is safe and enjoyable.
And you've previously said that you wouldn't consider yourself a confident person, but that when you get underground or underwater, something changes. What is it that changes?
Well, I am a bit of an introvert and sometimes a bit socially awkward perhaps, but, you're very, very much self-sufficient when you're underwater, or you should be. It's often said that you should never dive without a buddy, but in fact, in a lot of types of this sort of diving, we do dive by ourselves. And even if you do have someone alongside you, you do need to be extremely independent, because there are many occasions when, because of the depth or the distance into a cave or so forth, really there's nothing that a second person can do to save you without putting their own life at great peril. So we do learn this sense of great independence, and that makes it very enjoyable when you are in the cave, knowing that you're really relying on your own wit and training and so forth. And I really like that.
Have you been in a situation, though, when you're with a diving buddy in which you have had to help them, even though it may endanger your life?
I've had to help buddies, and I've had buddies help me, but not to the point where it's put either of us at risk. And in those cases, having a buddy has been a great assistance. But we just know, particularly Craig, my deep diving buddy, the guy who was in Thailand with me, we do know that there are some types of dives or some occasions where to try and rescue someone else would be a foolish thing to do.
You've also dived to 245 metres, 804 feet, and as the first person known to have breathed hydrogen on a rebreather. That sounds very impressive, although I have no idea what it means. Could you explain?
Sure. Well, rebreathers are a type of diving equipment that we often use, especially for these kind of deep or long dives, because the duration of this type of equipment is extremely long, and the last thing you want when you're having some kind of problem underwater is to also be looking at the clock or the contents gauge of a scuba tank and realising that you're running out of air and you've got a lot of time pressure to resolve an issue. And when you're on a rebreather that might last 6 or 8 hours and you've got all the time in the world essentially to solve whatever issue is going on, that actually is a great safety feature, and it helps you calm down and get on with solving the problem. So a rebreather basically is a device. You would have seen them on television. They've been around actually a lot longer than normal scuba equipment has. They've been around since the start of the last century. So you breathe into a mouthpiece. When you exhale, it goes back into the device and goes round and round in a circle essentially, so you don't exhale any bubbles. You don't waste any of the gas that you're exhaling, and the rebreather itself removes the carbon dioxide that you exhale, and it adds a little bit of oxygen back into the breathing mix that you would have used in that last cycle. So you only need quite small cylinders of gas to keep the thing running, just to add that little bit of extra oxygen, and it allows us to do very, very big dives.
So how is it exactly that somebody like you and others around the world, I guess, get on some kind of list or belong to some kind of unofficial club that when there is trouble underwater, that they know to call on you? Because we will get to the Thai cave rescue, which made global news and had an enormous impact, but you have been called to do other rescues. I just want to know, what's the directory for crazy people who do diving stuff who are also doctors? What's that Venn diagram like, and how do they find you?
No, good question. I guess the global pool of cave divers is not as big as the global pool of football players or what have you. So it is a smaller group of people. And at the top end of the sport, in the exploration circles, thanks to the internet, a lot of us know each other. And so when issues like this arise, then I guess people who are connected think of each other and go, well, I know that guy's got this set of skills and maybe he's someone who could assist us. So I was actually called by 2 of the British divers who came up with the sedation plan in Thailand. They had been there for a number of days beforehand, and they were the guys who actually first discovered the children, Rick Stanton and John Valanthan. And I'd been in touch with those guys because I had also been working in cave rescue as a volunteer in Australia. I'd been working on a capability to learn how to rescue someone who was stuck on the wrong side of a flooded section of cave that had become a particular interest of mine. So it was just, good fortune in a way that all the everything lined up, and I just had this set of skills, cave diving, anaesthesia and some cave rescue interest that led me to being involved.
You are a South Australian native, and in 2011 the South Australian Police requested your help to recover the body of actually one of your friends, Agnes Malauka, who had died whilst exploring a cave in the southeast of the state. What was that like for you?
It was difficult and unpleasant, of course, but it was a necessary public service in some ways. You know, we had to get Agnes back out of the cave, back to her parents, and we had to get her out of the cave so that people could continue to dive in this amazing place in South Australia. This particular cave is like a spider web. You know, it's a maze of passages interconnecting, so it's very complex, and it is one of the most beautiful diving locations we have. So, you know, obviously if we couldn't get Agnes out, then we probably would have had to shut down the site as well, which wouldn't have been great. We wanted to keep being able to use it, and it's on private property, or was at that stage, and of course for the farmer and the landowner, of course, we had to get Agnes out for them. So this was already at a time where I had been working with the police developing this capability, so I guess that's the reason why I had that relationship with the Water Operations Police in South Australia, and hence that's how I got involved.
You were one of the extraordinary people behind the rescue of some of the members of a Thai soccer team from a cave. You were part of the extraordinary team that took part in an event that was covered across the globe, but it was your specialty as an anaesthetist. Talk me through what you were able to do to help those boys. Essentially, I mean, my take is you knocked them out to try and get them out more safely.
Yeah, in a nutshell, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, so I travelled over there with Craig, again, my faithful compadre, and he and I went into the cave on the first day that we arrived to go and see the boys, see what their situation was, and also to check out and start to think about this idea of anaesthetising the kids to bring them out. The reason that had been entertained was that they were 2.4 kilometres underground into the cave, and over a kilometre of that was fully submerged passageway, so they would have to be scuba diving to pass through those sections. And the water was like chocolate milk. The visibility was literally zero. There's no point even turning a light on for most of it. You're just doing everything by feel, following the rope that the other divers had put in to lead us to where the kids were. And also very tightly restrictive in some places. Some places you would have to wriggle through the passageways underwater with the floor of the cave against your chest and the rock roof on your back. So the idea of teaching or enabling these kids to dive through those kind of conditions for what would be a 3-hour journey out of this cave without them panicking was just impossible. And we all the cave divers, all the cave divers knew that from experience, that would be something that was too much to ask of them. And of course, if someone panics underwater, then not only are they likely to drown themselves, well, they're absolutely certain to drown themselves, but they're highly likely to also take out one of the rescue divers who's assisting them. So we couldn't afford to have any other casualties on top of the kids. So the idea of anaesthetising or sedating them was floated to me, and my first response was, that is impossible. I mean, it's never been done before. The idea of rendering someone unconscious for a 3-hour journey like that was, in my mind, as ludicrous as the idea of having the kids awake. But having been on site for 24 hours or so, I could actually realise that there was no other thing to do. We either leave those kids in there and let them die over the next weeks, from exposure or starvation, or we give this a chance and at the very least return them to their parents who are waiting outside anxiously. So I agreed to do it.
One of the things that we do know, of course, is that not all of the rescuers came out alive. There were members of the Thai rescue team who died. What was it like explaining to your family, I'm not sure if you had kids at the time, that you were essentially risking your life and there was a chance that you weren't coming back?
Well, actually, I wasn't particularly concerned about the diving per se. I know that a lot of people thought that Craig and I were courageous to go there and dive in this cave, but you have to realise this is what we do on the weekends for fun. It is our kind of chosen hobby or virtually profession. So,
right.
So I never really felt like my life was in great danger in the cave itself. for me, it was always this moral dilemma about what's the right thing to do for these children. And the thought of essentially euthanizing them, which is what I was concerned I was doing with this anaesthetic technique, was obviously weighing very heavily on my mind. So my wife, again, knew that I should be safe in the cave. I think she wasn't so concerned about my physical well-being, given that that's what I do and that's the stress she's lived with for a long time. But certainly she was worried about the effects on me, my future, my career, my mental health, all those sorts of things if these children died.
And in 2019, you were made Australian of the Year with your dive buddy. What is it like to be rewarded for something like that? Because it was still a tragedy. There were still people who died. And, sometimes those things have traumatic after effects.
Yeah, well, firstly, from a trauma point of view, I mean, we felt very good about what we'd done and the outcomes there, so there was no concerns there. That may have been different if any of the kids had died. But it felt uncomfortable and somewhat embarrassing, to be honest, initially, having this extraordinary award given to us when I think we felt like, well, we were basically just doing our job and we were kind of up for the adventure of it, to be honest. We sought out an invitation to get over there. I'd been calling people who I knew in Thailand in the cave community there to try and get myself over there because I had this strong sense that I could be of use. The fact that it was a great success, I mean, I'm a little bit cynical in that if the kids had died, our so-called courage and morality and hard work would have been the same. However, the outcome would have been more as I had expected, and so I doubt we would have received any awards if that was the case. So, but anyway, once we received the award, it was an amazing honour, and we did our best to try and fill the very big shoes of the people before us.
What was really unifying about that moment in 2018 was the entire world. It felt like the entire world was invested in the safety and the well-being of these children. What do you make of the fact that now we are seeing so many atrocities committed against children, in particular in Gaza, and we're seeing it on our phone every day, and we don't have the same kind of care or collective, hey, let's get in there and save them. Let's get in there and protect the sanctity of life.
Well, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head for a lot of what I think about now. And at the time, I felt so privileged to have been a part of what was a truly global effort to come together to try and rescue these children. There were at least 14 different countries on site. There were people from China, the US, all through Europe, people from everywhere, and completely selfless, either donating personnel or money or equipment from all around, certainly all around Thailand. And it was an amazing thing to be part of when everyone came together with this common and clear vision of what needed to be done. And then you walk away from that and the next minute, this stuff's in the news and everyone's bickering and bitching and failing to realise that, at the end of the day, what's the difference? All these people dying in the Middle East. It makes me sad and makes me angry at the leadership that's allowing this sort of stuff to happen, particularly, in that particular case you've given the example of.
You retired from medicine in 2022 to focus on writing and filmmaking and speaking. Let's talk about this next chapter of your life because you have been involved in a documentary called Deeper. What was the challenge there and why that particular dive or cave in New Zealand?
Yes, well, it's very exciting. I've been diving this cave in New Zealand called the Pierce Resurgence, where this river, the Pierce River, basically is formed. It flows out of a hole in the ground and then continues on its merry way. So in 2007, I went over to New Zealand with one of the guys in the film, Dave Appley, and had my first experience of diving into this hole in the ground and to try and find out where it goes. And on that dive, actually, Rick Stanton, the British diver from Thailand, was actually on that expedition as well. And he dived down to an amazing depth of 177 metres. And I couldn't believe my eyes when he came back and told us that it continues to to go deeper and deeper at that point. And that was the start of a 15-year obsession, I guess, for me to go back to that cave and try and push on from where Rick Stanton had left off. And so in 2023, I went back with the usual team of friends that have accumulated around us to help with this challenge, including Craig again. And we tried to push further into the cave. And that became the subject of this film, because for all these years I've been filming archive footage, filming every one of these trips, and thinking that, I'd really love to showcase this group of people overcoming these obstacles in this beautiful, beautiful place in New Zealand, to show people what seems to be very hard to understand or explain to people. That, it's a very common thing to see people's eyes roll when I say I like cave diving. Most people understandably just don't get it and go, well, why would you do that?
Yes, because you took on New Zealand's potentially deepest cave system, knowing full well that if something went wrong, there wasn't going to be a rescue option. So is this like 10% brave, 90% mad?
I don't think it's bravery or madness, to be honest. I think it's calculated, managed risk, and that's what I do every day at work as an anaesthetist, and that's what I've been doing for decades underwater. So what I love is doing things that are challenging and difficult and potentially very dangerous, and making them as safe as possible so that someone like myself can actually do it in a way that is acceptably safe. And that's what life is all about. That's what young people need to learn, is to become risk managers. And that's a big part of my messaging, actually, when I'm doing my public speaking. But this obviously had very unique challenges. It's a remote place. It's very difficult to get medically evacuated from this place. It requires a helicopter to take us in and out, and often the weather's not suitable for that. And it's 6-degree water. We're camping on site. We've got limited medical resources if there is an accident of any kind. And ultimately, like in many diving situations, if you get into trouble underwater, even if you're 40 metres underwater, let alone 240, then you're pretty much on your own. There's not that much that people can do for you. And I've been doing it for so long now that risk has just been normalised to some degree. But having said that, it doesn't stop me, being very careful to manage it with each and every dive.
Let's zoom in on that calculated risk that you mentioned. Do you think humans are more likely to resort to, I guess, subjective reactions to a situation rather than really spending time calculating and understanding the risk?
I think so. And you become more skilled at that with age and maturity. I remember, the classic period of time, especially for young men between the ages of 15 and 25, is a very dangerous time of life because the brain is not properly developed. The testosterone is the overwhelming driver of motivations. And I think, including myself, you don't assess risks properly. You don't think about the potential outcomes and the impact on other people of those decisions. And that's why a lot of people who are doing these kind of activities are middle-aged, I would say, because A, they've survived long enough to get to middle age, and B, they've developed a careful and cautious approach to doing things thoroughly and well. Whilst it's hard to teach risk management to, that group of young people that I've mentioned, what we can do is allow young people to manage risks themselves and not be helicopter parents, not surround them in cotton wool, but actually allow them to explore their local environment, to learn how to manage risk and to learn there are consequences when they make bad decisions, rather than, just shelter them so much that they never really get to find out for themselves.
What did you find out for yourself about yourself in Baking Deeper?
Well, I think that's a great question, and it becomes actually a big part of the film, is that it's a bit of an inward look at my own life and growing up as a bit of an introvert, a bit of an anxious young man at times. I set out in many ways, subconsciously, I would say, to prove to myself that I was capable of doing things that are difficult and challenging. And through cave diving, I gained a lot of confidence in my own abilities to make good decisions, and that confidence has been really good for me and has been life-changing, I would say. So this sport that is there's something I've done all my life and something I've really enjoyed, has surrounded me with fantastic like-minded people who also are they enjoy engaging and managing risk. And, if you surround yourself with people who moan and complain and worry and don't get on with things in life, you find yourself very easily falling into that mentality. But if you surround yourself with active, can-do, roll-up-your-sleeves type people, you find yourself being swept up in that. And so I think I learned that at quite a young age, that good people around you definitely make you a better person as well.
So for somebody like me who actually has a phobia of depths, I barely put my head under the water, what would somebody like me gain from watching something like Deeper?
Well, I think there's something there for everyone, and especially for young people, as we've been talking about, this idea of engaging with risk. I think the outdoors are an amazing place for everyone to go and just let their brain kind of unclutter and get off your technology and just absorb the comfort and the relaxation that comes with being in beautiful outdoor places. The risky side of it itself, I completely understand that being underground is most people's worst nightmare. For me, it's being maybe on the top of a tall mountain looking over the edge. I'm not so comfortable with that. So I don't think you have to want to be a cave diver or love the idea of what we're doing to get something out of the film. What I hope people see is the benefits of being in this amazing group of close-knit friends, all striving towards a goal together and helping each other overcome some risk and some danger, and the bonds that grow through doing that. So, look, it's a bit of a white man, adventure in the bush type film. So, I was concerned that people would just see that superficiality. There's a bunch of blokes, out in the bush having a good time. But, for me, it's a really powerful message about friendship and camaraderie. So I hope people get something from that.
And shot beautifully as well. Really shot beautifully.
Yes. Yeah, some amazing cameramen, and some of it done by ourselves underwater, but all the topside stuff done by a couple of friends of mine. And I'm really proud of the film. I think it's great.
Well, I'm so glad that you have found something that's been life-changing for you and absolutely life-changing for those you've touched.
It's been fabulous. Thank you.
That was Antoinette and Harry there, or Dr. Harry. And you can catch Deeper. It's out in Australian cinemas right now. But now it is time for the weekend list, where we tell you what to eat, do, watch, or anything really in between. And today I'm joined by none other than Chris Spiru.
Oh, I'm
Chris.
so impressed with that pronunciation this week. Usually you mock me because I don't know where to... I don't know where to place my inflections. Hello, Helen. Okay, I have two recommendations because, that's how we roll here. Which one do you want me to lead with? Would you like me to lead with my TV series recommendation or my podcast recommendation?
Let's go TV.
Okay. Oh, I'm so excited about this one. Okay, so this one's on Apple TV, which I do know a lot of people don't have.
Yeah,
however,
me included.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're missing out, but let me tell you about it. So the series is called Invasion.
Yes.
Okay, they've just dropped their third season. So essentially, Earth is visited, I'm reading verbatim from the synopsis here, Earth is visited by an alien species that threatens humanity's existence. Events unfold in real time through the eyes of 5 ordinary people across the globe as they struggle to make sense of the chaos unraveling around them.
So they're in different parts of the world.
Yes.
And they're all being invaded.
Humanity's being invaded by the aliens and humanity needs to work together, keyword, together, to kind of stop the invasion or slow the invasion. Now, I'm kind of in my sci-fi era, which is really off-brand and weird for me. However, I will say this show is like Stranger Things meets Lost meets... I feel like I've recommended this before. I really hope I haven't. But it's really like a hybrid of all the best series at the moment. It has a lot of kids doing, like teenagers doing some cool stuff, but then like the adults coming in to save the day. The third season just came out, but it didn't do one of those releases where the whole season comes out. They gave it to you week by week by week.
I like that though. I like that.
And for 10 whole weeks, I was genuinely waiting for this thing to come out. And I was like, I want to watch that. And it was great. It does not disappoint.
Well, I like that.
Thank
I
you.
love a little bit of alien invasion. Now, my first recommendation is frozen pretzels from ALDI.
Yes, okay.
Now, I've thought about this one for a while because I didn't want to recommend it because they're so hot to go.
What is that?
It
What do you
means
mean?
they're hot off the shelves.
Oh,
they
right.
really sell out.
Okay, so sorry.
They sell out. It's hard to find these frozen pretzels.
Yeah.
So they were, for some reason, a special buy or they were a limited time. No, they've stuck around for a long time.
Okay,
I'm talking like nearly a year.
Okay.
But they come and go. But the frozen pretzels, they're like the proper real German ones. Like I'm talking as big as your face. They're thick, they're fluffy. You put them in the air fryer, you put them in the oven. Yes. I might have recommended them before. These pretzels, they have the baguette versions as well. You can get a baguette, you can get a pretzel. They're so freaking good. I love them so much. Please don't buy them out.
Yeah.
And
are we talking like what are the flavors that are on offer here?
Pretzel.
Are we talking,
they're just pretzel.
So just
salt.
salted? Okay.
There's only one flavour.
Yeah, but are we getting the ones with cinnamon?
No, there's only one flavour. They're real pretzels.
Okay.
No BS.
Yeah, I mean, look, not for me. I do need the sweet. I need the chocolate powder.
Just put it on top. Put it on top when you get home.
Oh, I never thought about that.
God.
That's a really good recommendation.
God. Anyway, frozen pretzels from ALDI.
Yeah, nice one, Helen. All right, coming in with my second recommendation. It's a podcast. Now, this is a podcast called Armchair Expert. It is like a top rating
I've heard
podcast.
about this.
I've never, well, not that I haven't heard about it. I've just never cared about it to click on it, watch it, engage with it in any shape, way or form. It's hosted by Dax Shepard. Now, I thought that was a musician. Not a musician. He's an American actor and comedian married to Kristen Bell.
Love.
Yeah, we know Kristen Bell. Kristen Bell, the one that does Anna in Frozen. We know Kristen Bell.
Also other things.
Yeah, there's much better references for Kristen Bell. But the reason that I listened to this particular episode of his podcast is because someone at work recommended it to me, and I was like, rogue request. I don't really like. Why are you recommending this podcast to me? We're inundated with audio all day. But it's his episode where he interviews Jennifer Aniston.
Your favourite person in the world.
Which, like, again,
what a surprise.
Famously not, like, someone that's not on my radar all that much at all.
Oh, yeah.
However,
you love her.
My love for Jennifer Aniston is because we share something in common.
Your birthday.
No.
Your star sign.
I need you to dig deeper. No, don't dig deeper.
Greek.
Yes!
Of course.
Yes!
Here we go.
And so she spends a good chunk talking about her Greekness in this episode, and that is what I love about it. She talks about her yaya. She talks about her yaya's house and how it's full of icons, like my yaya's house, like my parents' house, like everyone in my family's house. I felt so close and connected to Jennifer Aniston, Helen. I don't think you understand, but I will say this.
I don't. I'm not Greek.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Oh, if only you were. Poor thing.
I'm happy with mine.
Yeah, you've got the Italian in you. Yeah, you've got the little
fine.
chili around your neck. You're fine. But look, I've only gotten about 35 minutes in. And I'm just going to read through the chapter markers. This is what I like about this podcast. There's chapter markers which tells you how things are tracking along. So I've covered Jennifer Aniston's early nostalgia. I've covered transcendental meditation and first transcendental meditation experience. So they go into the spiritual in a way. That's why they bring up her yaya and stuff like that. 'Cause she's talking about religion and spirituality and how I get the vibe that she doesn't subscribe to churches as a concept, but she does subscribe to the spiritual in some capacity, and so that's where meditation comes into it. It was like
wow,
this,
she went deep.
It's a really diverse and different chat, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. I mean, she talks about her Greek roots, family traditions, growing up in New York. Love it. There's a lot in it for a lot of people, and yeah, if you just want to,
so what's it called?
Oh yeah, it is the Armchair Expert podcast hosted by Dax Shepard, and the episode itself is just called Jennifer Aniston, Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard.
Great. Love that one.
Thank you.
My next recommendation is actually a book. Now, it's Pictures of You. It's by Tony Birch. So Tony is an Indigenous author, and this book is a collection of short stories or small stories. So it's described as the best of 20 plus years of Tony's short story writing.
Love it.
So that's like a long time. And it really goes in depth with these characters who are living on the margins, showcasing the extraordinary in ordinary lives. And it puts a spotlight on unexpected kindness and connections between strangers, which I think is really important right now.
Yeah.
So it goes to the people that, they're not in the spotlight. They're not the people that you're going to be seeing on your TV or maybe in the newspaper or whatever, like on your social media form. These aren't influencers. These are real people who just are telling their stories, and Tony writes it in such a way that you can tell, like, he's won so many awards. Like, Tony has literally won every award under the sun you can think of. But his style of writing in this book, it's just really personal and important, I think. But yeah, it's called Pictures of You by Tony Birch. And I really recommend this one if you aren't really good at reading long stories.
That's exactly what was what I was going to ask.
Because everything, because they're short stories. So you can pick it up and put it down. You can pick it up, read a section, you can go through the chapters and choose like, oh, that resonates with me, that stands out.
Is it something that you have to read in order? Like, does it make more sense to read it from start to finish as you intended? No.
No.
Oh,
no.
Even better.
Like, you can. I think probably you should.
Yeah.
But good one to read, especially if you're like me and you're an audiobook girly.
Yeah.
You can just read the short stories and it's just really well written and really lovely.
And like I said last time I recommended anything to read, you need those little short, bite-sized hits to get yourself, for someone like me, I'm trying to get back into reading, you need a little sugar hits so you can feel better about yourself. 100%. So treat yourself, briefers, treat yourself.
Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us on the Weekend List.
So welcome.
Well, that's it for the Weekend Briefing. We hope you liked this interview with Antoinette and Harry. If you did, let us know. Send us a DM on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast and make sure you rate and review this episode as well and follow or subscribe wherever you're listening from. It's really one of the easiest ways you can help support everything we do here at The Briefing. The team will be back in your feed with the headlines on Monday morning. Until then, I'm Helen Smith. I'll catch you next time.